what the apostate Christian idea of the last days is designed. It didn't, we should do a whole show on this, but I'll just briefly get into it. Is, how Satan always comes up with a counterfeit, right? God does something big, Satan comes up with his version of it. Well, in 1830, the restoration of the gospel occurred, and then of the church itself being formed in 1830. But in that same year, this thing called the Rapture started to propped up, just got invented one day by a guy by the name of John Darby. And so that's where we have this idea.
I've heard
now
this before. I've heard this is interesting. I'm glad you brought this up. Go ahead.
And so the idea is that, right, it's that there's nothing we can do about it, just the worse things get, that that means we're getting closer to the return of the Savior. They can take away not just a movie, and so that's just kind of giving you an easy to see example, but if they're changing the books that you're reading, they don't need to just print out new editions. They can just, you bought the original one, 2 minutes later they download the new one, the new version that's approved onto your Kindle, and now the things that you're reading and studying are the only things you're learning are what's approved by by the powers that be, or the powers that shouldn't be.
Right.
Just like we see on YouTube with videos being taken down left and right. The so-called Wild West days in the early 2000s, where you could just put anything you want on YouTube, basically, as long as it wasn't pornographic or swearing or whatnot, but information-wise. And then all of a sudden now going back and trying to find videos, you'll watch a video a week, and a week later it's gone.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the program, and we have Ben back. Ben is back by popular demand. He is the man with the plan that some people are not a fan of. Just ask Ben. You've been sick. You've had the yucky stuff. Your whole family, huh?
Been going through, and just been one of those sinus infections that just keep coming back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good to have you back. I'm glad your family's all well now, and everything's good.
Glad we were able to get this all together finally.
Before we get going, I know we had different ideas of what we were going to discuss. Maybe some that take precedence over others.
Nothing time sensitive for sure.
Right. But maybe as far as urgency as like what do we what's at the top of our minds, what's at the forefront of what we feel is important. Can you give us an update on how things are going with that no knock thing?
Yeah. So if this is the first show you're watching on the Last Dispensation, go back and check out either my channel or my previous appearance on this channel. I had in late November, I had a no-knock warrant served on my house, and claiming that I was, of course, some kind of a drug kingpin of some sort. And so the warrant itself was completely illegal. It was a violation of the Fourth Amendment. And I mean, that's just not me saying that. That's lawyers saying that. And then you have, and then a no-knock warrant has an even higher standard, that there has to be a clear and present danger to the community around me if they don't, or the people in the house, if they don't do that. And so, that obviously was just ridiculous. And then as a part of that, the affidavit. What did they tell the judge to be able to get that? And so to be able to get the warrant, to get him to sign the warrant, what evidence did they have to show that I was doing these things, to show that I was a danger, and that they had to have the no-knock warrant. And so I applied for what's in the state of Utah is what's called a grammar request. It's like a Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA on the state level. And they denied it. And I was like, first they said, oh, we need another two more weeks. And then the 2 weeks was up, and they're like, oh, we're just going to deny it. And then I get a call like the next day from another lawyer that I haven't talked to before. And he says, oh, I was able to come across it, and I'm going to email it to you. So he emails it to me, and I go through it. And essentially there's three things that I learned from the affidavit. The first one was that the police have been watching my home just, without any probable cause in general. Like, I've been on a stakeout just because reasons. They didn't say why.
Mhm.
And as they did that, as they were just staking out my house, they found what they called suspicious activity. What was that suspicious activity? A hose coming out of my window, and, and
Which is the dryer, right? You said it was
no,
the.
it was
Oh.
like an exhaust for a 3D printer.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And so they reported that to the drug team and the drug unit. And so the drug unit did an investigation, and um, there was someone that they talked to that claimed that they smelled a chemical smell. The police didn't smell it. Nobody else claimed to have smelled it. There's nobody with any expertise to know what chemical smell is. And then the third one was the third piece of evidence that they had was that um, our house was slightly warmer than our bill was slightly higher than the neighbors next to us. And so those three pieces of evidence said that I was either one of three things, all three of these things: a meth dealer or meth producer, somebody growing psychedelic shrooms, and marijuana production. And I was a danger to the community. And so they had to do this no-knock warrant to make sure that they stopped me from being this horrible, dangerous person producing these horrible materials in my home. And so that's what it was. That's what they justified it on. Of course, I'm not in jail right now, so they didn't find anything because I don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to figure out what are the next steps because they violated the law, they lied, all kinds of stuff like that. So we're trying to figure out the next steps.
Well, I hope that things work out there. They will. Keep your faith in Heavenly Father and keep going forward. One thing that comes to my mind is witch hunt. I mean,
they're trying to shut me up. That's all there is to it. So
right. Yeah. They don't, and that's what they do with everyone today. It seems like but one thing that comes, because I was thinking about this the other day. I was talking to someone. We were talking about the prophet Joseph Smith and everything that he endured in Missouri with Governor Boggs, and how did you know a lot about church history? You know a lot about, how does that relate? Well, your situation to this goes back. This isn't something new. The Constitution has not always been adhered to, right?
Still isn't, right? And that's in fact the Council of 50. They had no plans of being under the United States anymore because by the 1840s, the United States government had completely apostatized from the Constitution. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not of no desire to compare myself. That would be ridiculous. It'd be blasphemous, in my opinion, to compare myself to Joseph. But the scriptures, the Apostle Paul says that anybody living their life in Christ Jesus will. It doesn't say may. Doesn't say, hey, be careful, it might happen. He says will receive persecution. And so that's just, hopefully, that's my goal, is to do what the scriptures say I'm supposed to be doing. And because of that, Satan's kingdom is being disturbed. And so they're doing all they can to stop me.
All right. Well, keep having hope, faith, and trudge through it. You'll get through it. We had some other things we wanted to talk about too. They were predictive programming. Those
are the things you brought up. Yep. We can talk about the WDF and the know nothing and be happy.
Go ahead. Talk about that a little bit. The World Economic Forum, and what are we? Oh, I never sent you that link from Dark Mirror, or what was it? Black Mirror.
Oh yeah. The show. Yeah.
While you're talking, I'm going to look something up, but go ahead.
Okay.
You start.
So just for your listeners, I'm sure you've probably heard the idea of you'll own nothing and be happy. That comes from the World Economic Forum. There was a talk by a Danish politician named Ida Auken, if I can pronounce that right, back in 2016. And he said that you'll own nothing and be happy. And so, that's obviously the ultimate goal of Satan and his kingdom, and his followers want to destroy property and freedom and liberty, because if they can control your property, that means you are subject to them for everything, all of your sustenance, and which means you will do whatever they say. And so, of course, they want to destroy private property. But a lot of people say, well, that's something that could never happen in the United States, or that would take a long time. But I wanted to show that there are several things happening just right now in the last several months that show that they are already moving us in that direction. And as a part of that, there's two things connected to it. One is memory hole, 1984, with this idea of not owning anything, that you just have a license to things. They can memory hole things and change history, so you don't know what the truth is anymore. And then also getting you used to not actually owning anything and that just being a normal part of society. Back in 2021, the New York Times actually did an article precursing some actual things that have actually happened. So they were kind of talking about how it was an article published in August of 2021 that says you don't really own the digital movies you buy.
Right.
So if you're on Vudu or all the any of these different Amazon things, it gives you two different options: to buy or to rent. And buy is a very loose term because you don't own it; you just have usage rights. And with all of these different things, where you don't actually own it, you have a contract where, as long as they say that you can view this thing. So it's basically a long-term rental as opposed to a short-term rental with the cheaper price.
Right.
And so in the article, it says, what does it mean to own digital content? That it doesn't mean you can, it says everybody knows that it doesn't mean that you can turn around and sell the digital item to someone else. That's a key part of ownership, though. That's the ability to use that thing and then the ability to dispose of that thing. And so if you can't do that, you don't own it. You can't broadcast it, right? Any of that kind of stuff. But also it says that it says when you order a view content, this is one of the different, the Vudu terms of service, and pay any applicable fees, you will be granted a non-exclusive, non-transferable, non-commercial license use in accordance with any usage rights contained herein and additional terms that may be provided with your service with such content. So, meaning the usage rights, which means they can remove your access to it anytime that they want to. Now, people say, well, they wouldn't do that. They would lose customers. Well, guess what? They have. This was back in just last month in December 2023. A PlayStation, Sony came out and was removing purchases that users made on their accounts, not rentals, but they just went in. You bought something through like Discovery, through your Max, your any of those types of accounts, then they actually removed them. Even though you purchased them, they removed your license to access them.
Mm-hmm.
And so people lost tons of different movies. And so, and they didn't violate anything. They didn't steal anything from you because you didn't buy the movie. You bought access to view them until they remove that access. And so they're getting you used to the idea that you don't own anything. And because you have all these different options, maybe you'll be happy because you can still watch it on some other streaming service. But this is another thing that another books is a big thing. With me, I own hundreds of books, and these are really important. I highlight them, and I like having digital copies of it. Like I say a lot, I like 3 versions of the same book. I like a physical copy to read and highlight. I like a digital book so I can do word searches and do research. And then I like an audio book so that I can listen to it over and over again and have it kind of internalized, right? And so, but when you buy the digital book, it's the same thing as buying like a digital movie. There was a case in Utah, in fact, just earlier this year, of a guy whose father died, and his mom was trying to access, because it was like a shared account, and they didn't have, each spouse didn't have their own accounts. They just bought stuff together and viewed it and watched it, and she lost access to it after her husband died. And so they were trying to get in there, and because it was her husband's account, Amazon, because it was a Kindle, said, oh, it's non-transferable. After they die, then you no longer own that content because that individual that owned the account died. And so all of those, hundreds of books that they bought through Kindle, poof, gone. And so I think that this is a very important thing for us to remember on several fronts, is that ownership is essential because things can be taken away from you at any time. And we need to not get used to it on the small level, because that's how the boil the frog approach works, is they get you used to.
I was just thinking about that.
Digital content. And they're like, oh, you after 4 or 5 years, everybody's used to, oh man, I lost my purchases over here. I'll just do the I'll just subscribe. That way I don't, I don't feel upset that I spent this money and lost it. If, Netflix takes off a movie that's just, that's just the way it is. Hopefully it'll be on Prime.
Well, look,
And
can
so-
I ask you something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think it's more about them trying to get us to, what am I trying to say? It's not so much about the ownership of property as it is maybe to get us complacent with having no ambition, no goals, no, or feeling, because when you have ownership of something, you have possession of it. You are a master of something. You are a lord of things, property, something of value. When you have nothing tangible that is of value, you in a sense they are devaluing you as an individual and as a sentient and as a what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, this is a sovereign being, right?
Yeah.
You always laugh at me when I go.
I do it all the time.
You
I'm
go,
like, oh, he's
yes,
having
Troy,
a brain fart
yes.
just like I do all the time.
Can I read you something real quick?
Please do, yeah.
You'll own nothing, be happy. Okay, so this is a future with no individual ownership is not a happy one. Property theory shows why. So they're putting stuff out like this. The World Economic Forum predicted that by 2030, individuals would own nothing and be happy. They always shoot. It seems like what did they? The old agenda was what did we used to call it?
2021, yeah.
Yes, 2021, and then it went up to 2030, right?
Yep.
Which just goes to show you that Satan himself doesn't always meet his marks.
Oh, right. Yeah. They're not, they just have goals. They're not like predicting something. And so things can be changed all the time.
Well, let me go on with this. So individuals would own nothing and be happy. This article examines the prediction from a property perspective. We situate the prediction by considering the societal transformations that inform it and show how they concern property. But then the part that I found interesting is when it says, quote, "Who will own what I won't own anymore?" The prediction was variously described in the comments as horrifying, terrifying, and madness. Why is it so terrifying to us? Because it is. For someone to say that you cannot possess something, that you cannot have it anymore. It made more sense to me in the old days when technology wasn't so networked.
Right.
It seems like a good thing. Oh yeah, someday we're not going to have to put our tape recorder up to the speaker and hit play and record to record and wait for the DJ to play that song that we like so much. In a way, I kind of wish we were back there. And I'm wondering if that might be some of the reasons why some of our young people and Gen Xers are reminiscent about that, are nostalgic for vinyl, for VHS, or even DVD.
Physical, right?
Physical,
yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
because
Costco. Sorry, well, Costco got rid of DVDs a long time ago. Best Buy just stopped selling DVDs completely. Target did earlier in the year. And so, all these, they're getting rid of all of these different physical media formats.
Right. So I don't think I'm the only one feeling that way. I don't
think so either. For a long time, like, you go into the convenience factor when everything was going digital, like, it was like, oh man, this is so convenient. I don't have to carry around all these DVDs anymore or these CDs. And I just have it on one device. And then all of a sudden disappears.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
But it's I don't think that it would be too conspiratorial, I guess, to think this was the whole reason they networked everything, made everything interconnected. No, I think there are good things about it, but how do we stop this? How do we allow our life to have how do we allow these conveniences in our lives for the good qualities that they that they give us, and at the same time stop this from ever happening.
Well, the only way you can control your property is to have property, and property has to be, you have to be able to control your property, and you have to be able to sell your property. So if you can't do that, it's not your
Then
property.
it's not property. How do you feel about Bitcoin or electronic money?
That's not the same thing. It can disappear at any moment. It's not real. It's not real money. Gold and silver, as the Constitution says, it has lasted the test of time. It is, and it not only, like Bitcoin itself, it's not even gold and silver is valuable not because we said it is. It's not magical like your cotton with your ink on it that says 100. It's real because it can be used for something that's valuable. All of us agree that gold, we don't just agree on it because we just said we wanted to. We agree on it because we're all using it. It's in your TV, it's in your phone, it's in your car. It's, it's used in electronics, it's used in decorations, it's used in jewelry. It's used in so many aspects of our everyday lives that it has intrinsic value no matter when, no matter where you are, it's valuable. Whereas Bitcoin has no, you don't do anything with it. There's no actual value in it, just like your Federal Reserve currency. The only benefit of it is it has no central control.
You can't melt it down. You can't forge it into something. You can't barter with it. You cannot exchange anything, just like our dollar bills that aren't backed by gold anymore.
Right.
When the Federal Reserve went poo-poo on that, and you know how that goes. That's a whole other box of worms.
Box of worms.
It almost makes me wonder if one day there will be a group of us that decides to go back to making VHS or DVDs.
Well, just like vinyl's making a comeback, there is a movement with digital, with physical media itself. And I'm not, this isn't about media itself. And I think it's as much as we can get out of Babylon, the better, of course. And so, like with the books, it's essential that we collect physical books. And I know this is going back to video, but maybe we can. I don't know if you have it queued up, or if you want me to bring it up. I want to show you an example of what can be done to information if we don't have it physically. Yeah. Going back to the digital platform, Disney Plus, there's a movie on there called The Adventures in Babysitting. So if you're an old person like me and Troy, you probably remember watching that as a kid. And there's this scene, the older brother wants to grab his zit cream, and his little sister is painting pictures of Thor. And he uses a term that's, in some circles today is considered hate speech. And so Disney Plus has edited out. So I want to show you the original and now what Disney Plus has done.
All right, here we go.
Thor's my hero.
Thor's a home.
Is not.
Yeah, he is.
Is not.
Thor's a complete home.
Take it back, Brad!
No.
Thor's my hero.
Thor's a weirdo.
Is not.
Yeah, he is.
Is not.
Thor's a complete weirdo.
Take it back, Brad!
So you can see the original, it says Thor's a home. And then in the new Disney Plus edited version, it says that Thor's a weirdo. And so, that seems minor, but
well, at first I'm thinking, oh, well, they wanted to edit that out because it's not appropriate. Right.
And that's, that's going to be people that feel that, right, it's a different rating system and different words or whatever. Yeah. But, Logan, a rated R movie with lots of swearing and other problems, is on Disney Plus. So it's not like they're like, oh, that's inappropriate, we don't want that on our family platform. It is, they're trying to get people, used to the things that are abominations. To, you don't want to call them bad words. You don't want to use an abomination as a bad word. You want to make it as positive as possible. That's why they have all their programming on there promoting the sodomite agenda. And so, but that's just one part of it, is the normalization of evil is one part of it. But the other part of it that has the longer term and more dangerous implications is the Orwellian, memory hole, where they don't want you to remember certain things, or they don't want you to remember them in the correct way. So if your books, just think of your books. If they can do that to a movie, they can do that to your digital books. You're reading their scriptures in Canada. Preachers cannot say that sodomy is immoral, an abomination. You can lose your license to be a pastor in Canada. So if it can
Wow.
happen in Canada, right? The future, you get your license agreements and whatnot, and you
So
want.
how do they teach that? What do they do?
They don't. They have to normalize it. You just don't talk about it, or we just can't
Right.
say that. It's,
Well,
Bible
we don't
says
even
that.
do it here now, and we have the right to.
Right. And so what like, just like with automobile standards, right? California passes a law. Ford says, oh, that's too expensive to make a car for California and a car for everybody else. We're just going to make all of our cars meet California standards. And so with digital content, what they'll say is, oh, your digital scriptures now, we're going to edit that part of Genesis out of the scriptures. Oh, this part is now problematic where, it talks about the role of mothers and fathers. We're going to edit that part out. We're going to change it, or we're just going to delete it. And so, your scriptures, you don't have basically the same problem that Christians had during the Dark Ages of they couldn't read the scriptures because it was illegal.
Right.
We'll have the same thing where the scriptures that the government deems as, verboten, you're gonna get your social credit score gone, are gonna be ripped out of your digital copies. And so if you've only got a digital copy of that, or let's say just history, that for whatever they want to change what the founding fathers said or what they believed or the things that they were involved in, and so information can be changed. If they can change what, calling Thor, they can change anything. And the idea that they wouldn't do that is ridiculous, because A, they are, and B, they've done it. And, not only have they done it in the past throughout history, but they're doing it right now. And so, words that were just normal and that are used to be able to explain a situation have now become, offensive, because now what's good is bad and bad is good. And so as the thought police amp up their game, just like they're doing in China right now, where if you say certain things online, you can't get on the train to work anymore. And so that goes back into the property rights issue of this whole thing as well. So these are all connected, where the thought police and property rights come to a head.
And being sedentary in your in what you're trying to achieve. Going back to that Black Mirror episode, the name of it was 15 million merits. And so it's the future. Well, all of the Black Mirror, you should check them out. They're all dystopia, even though they're obviously produced by the cabal, the people producing,
right.
The Netflix people and all those guys,
right.
They might not know that they fall in that category, but that's what Hollywood utilizes, these producers, these
Absolutely.
writers, these directors. That's Satan. Satan is the author
Absolutely.
of this. And if you, the episode I'm talking about called 15 Million Merits, the writer wanted it to be about basically be happy in a room where every wall was an iPad screen. And that's what it shows, is that in the future, there's people living in these cubicles out in space. I mean, we're talking way in the future. And all they do is they vie for merits. In other words, this fake money. Like when you're playing a video, it reminds me of, remember Farmville back in the old days on Facebook? And my wife would be playing it, and you would get fake money or fake coinage, right? And we talk about Bitcoin. So here's this future where people are satisfied with virtual reality, living in this matrix where they are competing with
metaverse.
Yes. And you've got this Hunger Games type society. You got people where and that's what it shows. All the walls are, you live in a place where you wake up and you have things playing 24/7. Like it even goes back to Ray Bradbury. What is it? Fahrenheit 451. And it shows a woman taking her pill every day, and she's watching the screen, and she's
451. Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah, because that's because it was about burning books. And it's funny because even 1984, George Orwell wrote that, and he wasn't talking about communism when he wrote it, because he was on the opposite end. He was talking about the right, and he was talking about nationalism or fascism, right? Fascism was the scare. But you fascism over here, totalitarian. It's all totalitarianism,
Right.
okay? Whether it's the Western globalists or the Nazis, either one. But to make a long story short, and I'll finish what I'm saying, is that this Black Mirror episode is about that, about complacency, about being happy with nothing, about competing for virtually nothing. And they do that. And so what they do is these people are in these little rooms. They win these games. They get so many merits, and then they get to go be with the elites. And my question to you, Ben, is that could this be more than just owning something? Why does the cabal care if I own a little box, or I own a movie, or I have some stuff in my little room?
Right. Yeah.
It's
It's not
psychological.
about adventures and babysitting. They don't care if you own a movie that says Thor's a mama. Okay. It breaks down to agency. This is Satan has been torqued since before we came down here, and everybody that got a body chose agency. And if you don't own property, if you are shoved into these 15-minute cities where you see right now, we're seeing all of these different high density housings go in, and they're sold on a lie that we have, housing prices is just too expensive. And so we just need to do high density to increase the supply to bring down the price. Well, guess what? That's it is a combination that is artificially raising the prices, first of all. Second of all, it's proven that high density actually increases prices, doesn't drop prices. You look in the Bay Area or in LA or Hong Kong, I think is a perfect example, because you mentioned living in little cubicles. In Hong Kong right now, individuals, look this up, literally spend $2,000 a month to live in
You said Hong
cage,
Kong?
a dog kennel sized
Did
cage.
you say Hong Kong?
In Hong Kong, yeah. And so for $2,000 a month, you're living in this little cage. And so, that didn't drop the prices. And so you've got about 6 different people living in this one studio sized apartment in their little cubicle. And they're sharing it for $2,000 a month each. And so are you going to have kids? Are you going to multiply and replenish the earth? Are you going to be able to be dependent, self-sufficient? You're going to be able to grow a garden? What if, if with the credit score, the credit, the social credit system, oh, you're not believing the right things. Oh, you're not saying the right things on social media. Your water's being shut off. Not only can you not get on the train anymore to go to work, to feed you're not getting water. And so it's not about adventures in babysitting. It's about
complete control
and about agency and being accountable for your own actions. And so taking away the ability, right? Getting people used to these things and shoving people into these 15-minute cities, getting people used to taking trains to work because they're all in these cities. These are the steps that get everybody used to the idea of not owning anything and having things taken away from us and make it normalized. And so if they can take away not just a movie, and so that's just kind of giving you an easy to see example, but if they're changing the books that you're reading, they don't need to just print out new editions. They can just, you bought the original one. 2 minutes later, they download the new one, the new version that's approved onto your Kindle. And now the things that you're reading and studying are the only things you're learning are what's approved by, by the powers that be, or the powers that shouldn't be.
Right.
Just like we see on YouTube with videos being taken down left and right. The so-called Wild West days in the early 2000s, where you could just put anything you want on YouTube, basically, as long as it wasn't, pornographic or swearing or whatnot, but information wise. And then all of a sudden now going back and trying to find videos, you'll watch a video a week, and a week later it's gone. And because you don't have a physical copy of it, that now the only stuff you'll find on YouTube, is stuff that is safe enough. doesn't go against the grain. There's things that we've talked about today that, of course, they don't approve of, but we haven't crossed the line. Maybe in 5 years, they'll delete it because it'll be a new line that they've set up that'll be crossed, and this will be deleted. But the idea is that that can change any moment. Things that you could have watched 3 years ago are no longer available anymore.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff, man. Do you feel, and I'm going to shift it a little bit here.
Yeah.
Do you think that we'll ever be able to conquer this giant? I mean, well, I'm talking about what Donald Trump is up against, what Americans are up against.
Yeah.
Why does America continue to thrive if the globalists want to do away with us? They don't really want to do away with us, right? Because they have the military industrial comp. They make a lot of money off of the United States, don't they?
Yeah. Oh,
I mean,
well, yeah.
Why do we
yes.
continue to thrive? Some will say that Congress is still a thing. Others, like Joel Skousen, says, no, our Constitution is dead. That it's all run by oligarchs, autocrats.
Joseph Smith said it was dead in 1844. So
Did he really?
Oh, yeah.
He didn't say then that it would be saved again. He said if it were to be saved.
So what we need to do is that, and so I like to distinguish between the Constitution and the United States. The United States will not be saved. The principles, the eternal principles of the Constitution will be perpetuated, will be saved. And that's a thing that, a lot of people that look into like end times type stuff. And I've been digging into the end times since I was a teenager. I read, like the Millennial Messiah, and just, I was reading Revelations and Joe Smith translation of Matthew 24.
Right.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing it, but I think that we adopt a lot of the false traditions of apostate Christianity in our mindset of the end days. And so I actually have a video on my website about this very idea, and it's what the apostate Christian idea of the last days is designed. It didn't, we should do a whole show on this, but I'll just briefly get into it. Is how Satan always comes up with a counterfeit, right? God does something big, Satan comes up with his version of it. Well, in 1830, the restoration of the gospel occurred, and then of the church itself being formed in 1830. But in that same year, this thing called the Rapture started to propped up, just got invented one day by a guy by the name of John Darby. And so that's where we have this idea.
I've heard
now
this before. I've heard this is interesting. I'm glad you brought this up. Go ahead.
And so the idea is that, right, it's that there's nothing we can do about it. Just the worse things get, that that means we're getting closer to the return of the Savior. And in fact, there was a guy, he's not really big anymore, but an LDS author named Roger Young. And I went to a talk that he gave in Arizona where he literally said that, if you can try to make things worse, that's what we need to be doing, is because that means we're getting closer to the second coming.
Okay, hold on. So what you're saying is that the last days stuff was not as it's been sensationalized.
It's been hijacked to twist what it means, to get us to be inactive, to get us to be slothful servants. Whereas prior to, right, the founding fathers, can you imagine the founding fathers saying, oh man, thank goodness King George, he's being a real jerk. That means Jesus is coming back.
So the rapture, okay. So the rapture was an idea to go, you know what, there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it. Jesus is coming and pick you up like a good big brother and take you up in the sky and go, it's all right, let me take care of all this wickedness.
Exactly. Prior to the 1830s, the Christian idea was we have to occupy until he comes. And this is what Joseph Smith said.
Continue to fight for our freedom.
Exactly. We are the Savior did a parable of the vineyard where he talked to the servants of the vineyard, said, I'm leaving, I'll be back later on. You guys just occupy till I come. So does that mean just to let it become dilapidated?
Right.
No, it means to keep it up, to make it better, have it when he gets back.
Do the workers
I want the Lord to be happy with what he came back to.
Yeah. Do the workers stop pruning the trees? Do they stop pulling the weeds? Do they stop fortifying things?
All of these things that we're looking forward to today, the early brethren taught these things specifically. Satan will be bound before Christ comes again. The seer combinations will be destroyed before Christ comes again. The political kingdom of God will be established before Christ comes again. Zion will be established before Christ comes again. This is all in the DNC and other, the Joe Smith Papers Project, just fantastic stuff. So are we going to be able to destroy this evil that's going on? Absolutely. This is going to, but what is our individual involvement going to be in it is up for, am I going to be a slothful servant and just say, I've given up and I'm going to just let it get as bad as possible because Jesus is going to rapture me up? Or am I going to say, I want to be a wise servant and occupy until he comes? That's the question that, is left up to each individual.
Interesting. This has been good. We'll see you in a few days, Ben.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. Hold on. Let me do some house cleaning. Don't forget to subscribe. You've got a YouTube channel now.
Well, I like people to go to the website because that can come down at any moment. So make sure you just go to subscribe our email list, and that way you'll get all of our latest content. treeoflibertysociety.com. His links will be in the descriptions field. And don't forget to subscribe to The Last Dispensation. Hit the bell for notifications, folks. I need you to click on the bell and then go to all. Okay, I think it's all, right? Click the bell, go to all. So you get notified. I'm on Spreaker, so is Ben. That's and all your favorite, what do you always say? All your favorite podcast platforms.
All your favorite podcast platforms. I do have a website. It's under construction right now. It's it's thelastdispensationpage.com. It's still under construction, but go there. It's 99 cents a month. If you go do it, you support me, you help me out. And I'll have a newsletter coming up very soon. And I would like you to contribute to that as well, Ben, that newsletter.
Yeah, I love it.
Darren Southam is going to be on the program in a couple days from the new movie, The Oath. Let's see what else. Joel Skousen's coming on program in about a week. Grant Gardner will be here. And don't forget to contribute to the program, please. I've got Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal. And you can find that in the links as well, amongst other things. I think that's it. All right, so I'll see you in a couple days, brother.
Okay, looking forward to it.
All right, thank you so much.